They say history is a teacher, and I believe that that's true, but history also needs an active audience. Otherwise, when we become neglectful, when we close the book to the past instead of treating it like it's a living map, that map begins to loop. And that's precisely what's happening right now. I just saw a video where they are reintroducing a version of the Jim Crow laws back to the South. Let me show you.
The Callais versus Louisiana ruling today, the Supreme Court has basically reinstituted Jim Crow. Louisiana versus Callais, that was the court case. The Supreme Court basically came out and said, we're getting rid of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. What's Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act? Does that mean anything to you as an individual? I can go into a bunch of individual details about it, but basically it says you can't create voting districts, right, that have a disparate impact on different kinds of people racially. So what's disparate impact? Disparate impact is the idea that even if you claim you're doing something for a neutral reason, if it has a disparate impact on a particular group of people, then you can't do it. So if I just say, you know what, I would like everybody that I hire at this particular job to have blonde hair. Right? I just happen to like blonde hair. Well, that's a disparate impact because it means that anybody who's not blonde can't get the job. Anybody who can't change their hair to blonde can't get the job. That's what the Voting Rights Act, that's what Section 2 basically said. So even if you drew a district where you're like, hey, I'm not trying to discriminate against black people, I'm just trying to make sure that Republicans have an advantage, the argument was, yes, you may claim that you're just gerrymandering for party's sake, but it's actually negatively impacting black people. That's a disparate impact. You can't do that anymore. Supreme Court basically got rid of that. Supreme Court said you can gerrymander all you want. They're going to raise the bar so high that basically they're like, you can't prove to us that anything is racial anymore. As long as the controlling party says that they're doing it for partisan reasons, we have no care about the disparate impact. So essentially, what Samuel Alito, with the concurrence from Clarence Thomas and the rest of Republicans, said that unless the voting districts are being cut and put together by like Calvin Candy, okay, unless it's Calvin Candy saying, I'm specifically trying to deny the right to vote, unless that happens, okay, basically you can't stop them anymore. So that's what happened today. These are the two questions that you have to ask yourself right now as you're listening to me. Do you live in Louisiana, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, or Alabama? Do you live in any of those 6 states? If you live in those 6 states, you got to listen to me. If you know anybody in those 6 states, you probably ought to listen to me. If you don't know anybody in those 6 states and you still care about democracy, you don't want to listen to me right now. When it comes to the 2026 midterms, this Supreme Court ruling doesn't really do anything to your state unless you're in one of those 6 places. Why? Because those are 6 states that have not had primaries yet. And because they have not had primaries for the congressional candidates, for state house, for state senate, their state legislatures, which are primarily controlled by Republicans, can get together and still cut up districts in time to try and manipulate the fall 2026 election. So basically all of this sort of gerrymandering arms race that's been going on since Texas, they still have a chance to do something. So if you're in any of those 6 states, you have to make sure that you are out screaming, protesting, telling your state legislator, it doesn't make any sense. You can't do this now. It's too expensive. It's problematic. If you know anybody in those 6 states, send this video to them and let them know, hey, look, your vote is going to be under attack. You have to do something about this. Do not under any circumstances think that this is over or we should just roll over and quit. Remember, there used to be, before we had the Voting Rights Act, you had like 4 black people in Congress, then you had 6 or 7. At one point you had, at the end of Reconstruction, you had 22 African Americans in Congress. There were 0 after the end of Reconstruction and the South came back. We are in that same moment now. So the first thing, key, Supreme Court has reinstituted Jim Crow. You can discriminate in the way you put together districts. It's most important for those 6 states. Make sure in those 6 states you get active, you find organizations, you check your voter registration. And if you're not in one of those 6 states, try to communicate with people there to help them. That's our first thing. That's number one. That's number one topic.
History doesn't just repeat in wars or grand revolutions. It repeats in quiet preservations of policies. And these policies were born from eras where things were so excluded, strict, rigid, and fundamentally unjust.
You cannot stop the truth from spreading, it's coming fast. History you tried to cover up is unfolding at last. The chosen ones that earth hit is no longer silent. We don't care about the oaths, the policies, or the violence. Let it out, scream and shout the truth of the law. We are more willing now than ever to risk it all. Stand down, reveal the truth, take the hits coming to you. Know that soon all will be revealed. The moment of truth.